Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all here. It's 10 p.m. Thursday, 21st of April, day 57 of this war, and we're doing a stream with yours and our friend, Alexey Arestovych. Alexey, hello, glad to see you. Likewise. Alright, let's start with flow events. We actually will show the map today. Alexey, you did suggest that we might show a map. You don't need to follow the details, but we'll use one of the maps that we took from the news channels. I also need to explain that we cannot show everything, but this is a pretty basic map that's available online to help the viewers from Russia who might not be well aware of the geography of the east of Ukraine. I will show this map. Alexey, what news do we have? We actually have quite a bit of news today. Are you showing the map? Yes, we are. Unfortunately, you will not see it. But you know this territory. You probably have been there and you've crawled everywhere. All right. I will tell our viewers that red color that you see there, it is not entirely true. Russian military should be drawn there as red capillaries on this red surface. In reality, the forces of Russian Federation in a very small capillaries should be drawn just around the roads on this map. So coloring of the whole map that creates an illusion for the wrong understanding of state of things. This is about 1,200 kilometers long front, and they're spread thin around the roads and the very first line of it. They don't have resources to protect any of it behind the front line. All the troops of Russian Federation are on the first line. There is nobody in the second line, nobody in the back. As far as the change of the circumstance, first of all is the meeting of Shoigu and Putin that was broadcast, where Putin is grabbing his table, where he's got short pants, not really good size, where his hair is a bit overgrown, and Shoigu got a little bit of a digitalization showing over his head, which raises a lot of conspiracy questions about if it was digitized or not. Do you think it's possible? Well, as I train on the courses in our school, always look or pay attention to the presence of unusual or the absence of usual. What is the first thing that jumps at you in this picture as the absence of usual? Shoigu is wearing a civil dress. This is actually the second time he was on the funeral of Zhirinovsky, also in a civil outfit, without his stars and orders that he probably wears in his underwear. You know, there is an old joke about two generals who are meeting in the corridor of the main command, and one leads another to the corner and says, "Hey, Michael, where are the medals? Oh my God, I forgot to put them on. I left them on my pajamas." So these people who wear the orders and medals, all of their regalia on every dress they put on. Now this man in civil outfit is telling Putin that we have captured Mariupol, and now we only have a few of the Nazis left in Azovstal, and we'll finish them in a few days. And then Vladimir Vladimirovich tells him, do not finish them. It is not good for our soldiers to crawl in the basements and catacombs. You've surrounded them, let them stay there. Let's take our troops and move them to the new direction of the main effort. What does it mean? Now I'm translating that to the human language. A lot of interesting things flow out of this statement. First, they cannot take Azovstal. In the last 24 hours, our troops damaged them quite a bit. 2 tanks, 3 armored vehicles, destroyed a bit of infantry. Second, they probably realize that if they continue following this task, they'll likely lose the remnants of their important resource, stormtroopers, so to say, storm infantry, the ones that are specializing in storming cities, and they likely will lose about 4,000 more troops. And stormtroopers, storm infantry, they're hard to come by, and not so much by training, but by their spirit. And they don't want to lose that many. This is a very rare, precious resource in every army of the world, much so in Putin's Russian army. Another point is that bombing with huge 3-ton bombs, 3 to 5 days, did not help them. Azov continues resistance, and National Guard, police, territorial defense, Marines continue defending. So they really have no way out. What they have to do, they have to announce that they've captured Mariupol, which is, in fact, a wrongly announced victory, and it also means that they'll be throwing more troops from that area to other front on the north. That means that 1, 2, actually 3 things that are good for us, probably 4 that they don't have enough troops up north. Second, they also will not have enough troops to maintain the full encirclement of Azovstal. They will need probably 2 to 3 times what they have left. And then it also means that they have claimed that Mariupol is captured, while the battle for Mariupol continues and will continue, with probably better outcome for our troops than before, because it'll be much less Russian troops in the area. While Alexey is talking, we're showing the picture. You can peruse the details. So, in the meantime, our troops will continue hitting on those remaining in Mariupol with double or triple pleasure. That means that the threat of actual capture of Mariupol has decreased. They will continue to be beaten in the Mariupol. The whole world will know about that, unless they keep hiding it. But we'll probably show, hey, we captured people, we have prisoners, or we destroyed some more equipment. So it will be more difficult for them to maintain active battle posture in that city. What it also means is that they might have got scared by the military ultimatum of Zelensky. Do you mean that he said we'll militarily deblockade the city? No. I mean that he said that we will stop or quit negotiations if you will push capture of Mariupol, and we'll try to kill our defenders there and civilians. That means they're afraid to leave negotiations, and the civil suit means the lowering the tonality of war, so demonstrating peaceful intentions, or at least being ready for constructive discussion. Because if they were insisting of, we'll finish you, we'll win, then Shoigu would come in his full military outfit with medals. That's how many things stream from that simple video. Alright, let's take a look at the map again. So these words of President Zelensky, that you're not leaving us other chances but to deblocade Mariupol in a military fashion. I do not remember that. I mean, he might have said that as well, but I cannot recall it. Alright. What is happening in the zone of the Eastern Front? LOS. There is zero movement? Yeah, remember the song Ciao Bambino, sorry? Yes, zero. So, on one hand, the weather became better, so Russian military Air Force went to drop bombs on Ukraine. At the minimum, we shot down 2 planes, don't know the exact type, they fell on their territory. We shot down 2 helicopters, and then there are also some boasting tongues on the front that are stating that 6 to 8 vehicles were shot down, but we cannot verify that at the moment. Moreover, you have Sasha Kotz on your Russian side. Oh yeah, he's a complete fuck up. Well, you still have him there. So, he wrote, and I quote, "Our military is working professionally, and we have highly experienced military fighters who have experience both in Afghanistan and in Chechnya." Another question for the smart ones: how old are the pilots who have experience of Afghanistan and Chechnya? Afghanistan ended in the 80s, so such a pilot was probably already beyond the age of a military pilot. They probably dusted him off, put him in a plane, and asked him to fly a little more. He should be over 60. So let's say Chechnya, the youngest is probably 52. So these would either be commanders of divisions or leaders of the armies, generals and colonels, or somebody's lying. So now let's ask a question. Why would Sasha Kotz need to lie? Well, probably because he got kicked by an iron boot and was told to go and do something about the situation where we're losing pilots. So you have to go out and say that our pilots are professional and they keep working and working miracles. Remember, there was another situation when we've shot quite a few of them, and then the next day Putin is out on Cosmodrome Vostochny stating that the pilots are absolutely professional and working. That means that Ukraine has at least shot down 4 planes with pilots. We have about 290,000 people watching us live. Over 30,000 left likes to this video. I just have to remind there are a lot of new people coming, and some people are cursing me for this advertising, but please subscribe to this channel. Our Russian segment is growing at about 30%, but it's not enough. We need more people in Russia to watch this video. Please subscribe to Alexey Aristovych's channel. He's got a wonderful one with a lot of videos and interviews there. Not just us. That's a combined material, so you might get a better picture of what is happening if you watch different materials on both of our channels. Alright, so over there is a 0. Mark, there is a little more to look at that area. So there is another question. Why that scary Russian offensive cannot move for 5 days? Not even a yard. So that's a question to our viewers. I understand a lot of them are civilians, but they can think logically. How can that be when they collected the best, what they had, and they want to win, but it didn't work, or doesn't work? Why? Remember, we talked from the beginning that they're doomed to fail. Now that the terrain is not friendly and they're repeating Kievan mistakes, same situation where they throw 25,000 units into narrow forest paths. But it's not the major one. I got a little epiphany today. Why was Dvornikov appointed as the leader? It is always a statement. So what is he famous for? For Syria, yes, he is also famous for his ability to send troops to battle regardless of losses. Why would you need a person like that who can do that? Maybe to write everything off and blame him? Maybe, but there is also another option. What if the troops are not really enthusiastic about advancement, so they needed somebody who can actually try to push them? So I have a suspicion, I have a theory that troops all the way down to the lowest rank are sabotaging the events. Let's follow some logic. Let's follow the facts and logical events. First, people who were beaten up and who left Kiev and Sumy with a lot of losses and casualties. So they've been there, they know how it ends. There is also a difference. Under Kiev, there was some of the special forces and territorial defense, but now they're being thrown at professional military, who've been fighting for 8 years. The most battle-capable fighters of Ukraine who've been fighting on the Eastern Front for 8 years. So now they're being thrown at these troops. Imagine you've been just hit badly, you buried 4 out of your 10 battle friends, and you're thrown into a new grinder. You cannot really protest when you're in the military, but what can you do? You can act very carefully. Let's call it delicately, let's act with maximum care. Second, they do not have proper military intel. So they're moving with their platoons, smaller detachments, trying to find possible ways to advance. What does it mean in reality? It means that 30 infantry from our side burn several vehicles that they try to advance with. So they go back to their commander saying, hey, somebody in the forest, they burned 3 cars out of our 10. So there's probably some resistance on this side. And okay, let's try a different route. They go a different route, another 30 guys with grenade launchers, destroy 3 more vehicles. So how do you find such a place where you can advance through? Ideally, that would be a place where there would be very little of our troops and where they would face no resistance. That would be an ideal picture, but they cannot find one like that. Because it doesn't take much to just scare them a bit. You don't even need to destroy the whole detachment, you just burn a couple vehicles, and you don't need a lot of troops on our side. You seriously need 100 to 30 infantry who are pretty mobile and who navigate between these pathways of possible approach and keep harassing whoever advances. So they go back, Russians go back, they complain that there is some resistance, the army sends some airplanes. What does our infantry do? They hide, they let the bombs drop, and then they run back again and burn more cars again, more vehicles again. So, I don't know how long can that continue on Russian side. On our side, that can continue pretty much indefinitely. And yesterday, I think, we shot down about 4 of their air vehicles in this front. So, I'm not even saying what does a soldier think. Let's think about what does a general think, because he has not enough supplies. That he's losing the last ones on this advancement. If Ukrainians will try to counterattack, there'll literally be nobody to hold them with. So they start thinking, well, Putin will be talking about negotiations, declaring peace talks here and there, creating humanitarian exit corridors, calling everybody for adequacy. What will be happening on the Ukraine side? they will be accumulating heavy equipment. First of all, the heavy artillery. You were always saying, I will not believe until I see it. Did it start? Oh yeah, it's going. So the general understands that all these 152mm artillery shells will start falling on his head very soon, and he needs to hold the defense somehow with some resources, and he'll be cursed for not being able to fulfill the command. So he needs to maybe save some of his army to potentially then use them in defense to stop the Ukrainian army. So what's the exit here? Well, it's pretty simple. We pretend that we do have the advancement. We depict the offensive operation as long as we can. And they've already announced a few settlements captured until our guys were laughing and actually just recorded a video from one of them saying, hey, we don't know what you exactly captured. So that's what this may be happening. What is happening on the negotiations? Different things. At first they said that negotiations lost all faith, Russia cannot rely on them, then they apparently got faith in them again. Our guys, Podolyak and Erhamia, said they can even hold the negotiations in the battered Mariupol. Russians have not reciprocated this idea. I'd say that all their variety of their reactions to our statements, that means it's a mess in their office. When the Ukrainian side says different things, that means it's just a lot of initiatives. Each of us is a personality and we just run around taking different things upon us. So that what leads to different statements. In their case, when it's heavily authoritarian and when you see different statements, that means there is no order. So they're hopeful that they'll continue negotiating till they find some of the military victories to fall back onto. Remember, we talked back in March when I became famous for saying, regardless of when I'm asked, it's still 2 to 3 weeks of war left. So I have to say that it's 2 to 3 weeks of active phase 2. And when people were expecting it in March, early April, so I can say now it started. And we're technically around approaching week 2. So right now they're burning all their reserves to do what? This is really, they're in a tough place. What does Michael Podolyak tell you about the negotiations with Medinsky? Well, he's not necessarily sharing because it's classified, but I can gauge the general tonality of how he comes back from that. Because, we're getting different information. Some of it is that there are no negotiations. It's not that important how they do that. I know they're still talking. So another question, an important one, about military resupply, military armament support. I don't want you to disclose anything classified, but just, approve or disprove things that were published. Because, there are different statements you can hear from people that some of them are screaming, Ukraine is running out of ammo, running out of vehicles. So let's talk about that. You can just follow the Western press. I think they're now in race mode who discloses more about what they send us. So I can be mistaken with something, but America, I think, announced that they're sending 72 howitzers. Dutchmen are sending heavy equipment. Maybe Germans, we'll see about that. Unmanned aerial vehicles and many other tasty military things. As soon as they get integrated to the front, the life of those who will be on the other side of the front looking at these howitzers will become really miserable real fast. And artillery basically provides for our army an option to maneuver, but it suspends that option for the enemy. So our artillery will probably harass them substantially, and if they try to send Air Force to take them out, they'll start losing jets as well, just like today. That is a dead end. This is what in English terminology they call a game-changing weapon. The weapon changing the flow of battle. Exactly.
Да, писец подбирается на мягких лапках, аккуратно, конкретно к российской армии, находящейся на территории Украины.
Tell us, what do they do with corrupt officials in the office of the Ukraine president? Oh yeah, I have full capability. If somebody is corrupt, we just shoot them. Yeah, I heard a lot about this horrible corruption they're accusing us sometimes of, but when you ask to show the facts or help us with accusations and a criminal case, we're a country that follows laws, and that usually turns into a problem. Very often it's just words. So, let's speak about Kherson. So, that city is in Russian hands. Now there is a risk that Russia may hold a referendum. Of course, nobody will come, and it will not preclude them from announcing that Kherson Republic voted for and decides to join Russia, and Russia acknowledges and recognizes it and annexes the territory from Ukraine into Russian territories, and then it falls under the doctrine of defending territories with any weapon you have, including nukes. What is your attitude to this matter? Well, they can say whatever they want. They can take Mars or whatever, but this territory is ours. And we don't give a crap about the weapons they will use on us or try to use on us. It is our territory. We'll be making all efforts to capture it back. And if you capture the people collaborating with Russians, you'll be executing them? Not exactly. We will capture them and there'll be a criminal investigation. We're a country that follows legal standards. And again, whatever Russia states or annexes or joins into its body, we do not care. It is our land and we'll be fighting for it. Do you want us to remind you about Millerova and other things that happened, funny events recently? If you have not understood the game you're playing, we'll be glad to help you understand it. They also are looking at full mobilization in these territories, because if the referendum is done, then they can actually order every male person in Kherson to join the Russian army. What do you think? I would say it's a healthy idea, because in the populace that supports Ukraine by 90%, a thought to give them weapon costs a lot. That's what we talked about. If you give them weapons, they likely will execute Russian commanders and join Ukraine military. I can only imagine. You take a platoon of 30 people, from which 27 are entirely loyal to Ukraine. Then you give them a command that you're going out to capture Nikolaev, and the moment you turn your back to them, you get shot. So, you think military command will continue with investigations and will be keeping a tight eye on everybody? Well, it's a tricky situation. I know that it's enough just one case when one of these new conscripts would start shooting at his troops from Russia. That will destroy morale of this detachment real fast. So how do you do that? Then you start sprinkling them into Russian troops, and then those detachments lose morale? Or do you create a separate troop out of Kherson citizens Well, that may cause more concerns because then they kill their officers and move with the whole troop over to Ukrainian side. That represents a big conundrum for Moscow, how to deal with that. I actually have another idea, They can conscript every person in Kherson and move them into the Kremlin guards. The first-tier guards for Putin. I suspect then everything will be done for Mr. Putin real quickly. All right, another question that is somewhat related to the last one. From Mariupol, according to different sources, at least 500,000 was moved to Russia from the areas where the battles raged. That's the big amount, and that includes kids. Yes, 160,000 kids. Wow, that's a big number. What does the office of the president say? What can you do? We're doing everything as usual. Our diplomacy, adding these cases, tens of pages, to the case against the genocide in Ukraine by Russian Federation. I know our parliament already announced it. That's a genocide, what's happening here. Latvian parliament announced it as a genocide. And if you add cases where kids were taken away from the country and forcefully adopted by other families in a different country, I need to remind you these cases have no expiration date. So you're helping them in Russia? How do you do that? Ukraine does not have much representation in Russia. Well, yeah, remember we talked that you do need some ambassadors even when you're at war, just for situations like this, to be there. So we're using third parties and working those systems. But in general, imagine, move populace from one country into another and not let them return back. That, among other things, is aimed at resolving demographic situation. So, yeah, kids are being stolen in huge numbers. And back in the Soviet days, there was a movie about the flight of a green monster, and they started that movie with the monster stealing kids, so that's kind of what's happening now. You're a lawyer, right? You're the international lawyer, you're Russian civil rights ombudsman. Imagine, I'll tell you it's impossible. Well, yeah, just let's follow through. You come to a Hague tribunal and you say, I got a case about kidnapping and forcible adoption in Russia. What do they answer? Oh, they rub hands and say how glad they are that you brought the case here. There's really nothing to say here. This is a slam dunk case in this case. And I suspect people who are running these IDs in Russia will become sober pretty quickly once the court starts acting against them. So here's another message for Russian taxpayers that 350 billion that were arrested overseas, they are never coming back to Russia. This money will go for payment for weapons, for rebuilding of Ukraine. Your negotiations and conversations about reparations and returning the money back to Russia, they are useless. These money are not coming back to Russia. Well, yeah, they do still want to use that money somehow, so they're trying. And now we have an agreement about Lend-Lease with the United States, so we're getting heavy equipment. So about 35 minutes live, about 400,000 people watching you. Somebody calling you? Oh, no, just remembering an old song. In this hall, in this big concert hall, there is not a single empty seat. I'm just thinking that soon Lend-Lease equipment will be here. That will change the game. So, what's your opinion? My previous cast was with my friends Piankovsky and Gutkov. We've been walking around the thermonuclear problem, the readiness of Russia to start a thermonuclear war, and their statements about they might use some of the tactical nukes in the territory of Ukraine. Americans already registered their protest. So it is all like half scaring statements translating into human language that we understand you can retaliate, but we're saying that so far, as Lavrov told that Indian agency which asked him a question, at this phase we're not going to use tactical nuke against Ukraine yet. So this whole situation might, I know theoretically and you don't really believe that, but that crazy old fart may demand from his people to drop a bomb on one of the Ukrainian cities or something like that. What can stop it? Do you think reaction of countries of the West, Britain, States, Europe, can affect it? That since Russia has already taken these duties of non-proliferation and non-use, aggressive use of nuclear weapon, we might just strike Russia back if they say that. Do you think this will affect the situation anyway? Why do you say I don't believe? I do believe. I'm stating that the probability is low. Yeah, probability is not high, but they are, you need to understand, they're non-human in their attitudes. They're emotionless. But there were some rumors about the call of Milley to the Russian Minister of Defense, that Milley told him that if you use the nuke, we'll use the nuke on Moscow and you. I don't quite believe that this conversation happened. But one thing is important that they need to understand: nobody is afraid of them. With nuke or without nuke, I mean, nobody's afraid of Moscow. Yes, that's what I mean. When they're saying that the West will be afraid, no, the West will not. Johnson already mentioned that in his statement that he will not be even consulting other countries of NATO. They'll retaliate immediately if Russia uses nuke. That's a very strong statement. There is a sort of competition now in NATO, the pendulum going the other way. Who came first to Ukraine? Who gave more equipment? So I think the answer here is very sharp. Nobody will tolerate Russia using nukes. This will be craziness and mad end to all of them. Do you think they get it? Mark, they're not insane. They're quite rational. Just like Satan, he's unhumanly rational in his steps. They understand what's happening. People say you should be calming everybody down. All right, let me go to the theological version of it. Satan is not suicidal. According to the church views on that, his main feature is ever-consuming love to himself. So if they're following that path, the whole world in dust is not their pathway. They would not object to a lot of blood as long as it's not their blood. So if they've seen a perspective, if states are strong, and Johnson had made his point clear, I don't think this is really a risk at the moment. Even if they do that, even if they use that weapon, that will not give them anything. It'll just make us angrier. All right, on that happy, almost, tune, on the 40th minute of our cast, with 409,000 people watching us right now, I suggest we take a pause until tomorrow, digest it. It's 10 p.m., past 10 p.m. on our side of the world, and we'll see how your conclusions are realizing themselves dynamically. I have more, but I don't want to scare our viewers. So let's talk next show. Hope they can use some libations to calm themselves down in between this show and the next one. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, to Alexey's channel, and to Privateer Station if you're listening to that in English. Goodbye.